Top 10 Auction Shocking Prices for Gemstones. Some gemstones were never worn. Others were never set. One was never even named until the final bid was made. This is not a showcase of aesthetics or legend. It is a documented record of value. 10 transactions, each authenticated, each completed, and each powerful enough to shift how the global market defines worth. Here, prices didn't just surprise experts. They forced revisions in grading systems, restructured auction protocols, and elevated overlooked minerals into financial assets. These are not stories of beauty. These are points in history, measured in carats and closed in millions. Don't forget to press and hold that like button, leave a comment, and hit subscribe before we begin. Ranked 10th, the Moussaieff Red Diamond, 5.11 carats. No internal flaws. A hue officially classified as fancy red, the rarest color grade ever recorded by the Gemological Institute of America. This is not a diamond often seen, even in auction catalogs. And that's because there are no direct comparisons. There is only one. It began not in a royal vault or an underground laboratory, but in a riverbed in western Brazil, in the Alto Paranaíba region, in the late 1980s. A 13.9-carat crystal was extracted from alluvial deposits. It looked unremarkable, the type of stone that disappears into commercial batches. But under polarized light, it revealed lattice distortion on a molecular level, a rare internal strain that bends light and blocks every wavelength except red. The diamond was sent to New York. It was entrusted to William Goldberg, a master in recutting high-risk stones. What came out months later was something gemologists had never documented at this scale. A shield-cut, internally flawless, fancy red diamond. No phosphorescence, no trace of boron, no foreign inclusions. It was initially known as the Red Shield, but in 2001, it was acquired in a private transaction by the London-based dealer Shlomo Moussaieff. From that moment, it disappeared from the commercial market. No public bidding war, no televised auction room, no record in Sotheby's or Christie's databases. What remained was the paperwork and the photographs. An unofficial valuation placed it at nearly $8 million, although no exact price has ever been confirmed. It held the record as the most valuable red diamond ever sold until the early 2010s. And even then, none that followed matched its combination of weight, clarity, and saturation. For a brief period, it was loaned to the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., where it was displayed alongside the Hope Diamond and the De Beers Millennium Star. But it did not remain on display. Within months, it was returned to private hands. Its current owner has not been identified. No museum has it on loan. No foundation claims it in any of its catalogs. But every reputable gem registry, from GIA to Fancy Color Research Foundation, still lists it as the largest internally flawless fancy red diamond ever discovered. No camera has filmed it since, but it exists. And until proven otherwise, it holds its place. Ranked 9th, Hope Spinel. In the early 1800s, a gem collector named Henry Philip Hope acquired a reddish-purple stone weighing just over 50 carats. He cataloged it, boxed it, and placed it among dozens of others in his private collection. One that would eventually include the infamous Hope Diamond. Unlike the diamond, this stone drew little attention. It remained unnamed, uninsured, unstudied. For more than a century, it passed through private estates without fanfare. By the time it reappeared in a London auction catalogue, it had no detailed provenance, only a note confirming its inclusion in the original Hope archives. The listing provided a modest estimate: £120,000. Bonhams, London, 2015. The gem was described as 50.13 carats, unheated. Burmese origin, cushion cut, transparent. A red spinel. The room expected little. Spinel, even when natural, had long been treated as an understudy, often mistaken for ruby, and valued a fraction as much. But something was different this time. Two bidders ignored the estimate. They drove the price higher, past 200,000, then $500,000, then nearly $1 million. When the hammer dropped at £962,500, nearly $1.5 million, the room fell silent. No treatment, no synthetic enhancement, no celebrity story, only form, color, origin, and forgotten context. After the sale, the Hope Spinel vanished into private hands once again, but its result did not. Within months, auction houses began reclassifying Spinel. Jewelry historians rewrote footnotes. The industry, for the first time, dedicated a column in valuation charts to Spinel. Not because it became rare, but because one neglected archive proved the market had been wrong. Ranked 8th, Rockefeller Emerald. It was never catalogued in a museum. It never appeared in state inventories. But for over 80 years, one emerald remained in private hands, unlisted, unpriced, and entirely intact. The stone weighed 18.04 carats. Colombian origin. Step cut. Exceptional transparency. It wasn't passed down through the generations of monarchs or lost in an excavation. It was commissioned, personally, by John D. Rockefeller, Jr. The emerald had once been set in a ring worn by his wife, Abby Aldrich Rockefeller. When she passed in 1948, the setting was dismantled and the emerald preserved. No publicity, no appraisal, just family discretion. It was entrusted to Raymond Yard, a jeweler known for his precision among the American elite. Yard recut and mounted the emerald. It remained in private estate holdings until mid-2017. Then, for the first time, it appeared in a public catalog. Lot 129, Christie's, New York. Projected estimate, $4 to $6 million. To outside observers, it was an emerald with provenance. To collectors, it was something else entirely. A crossover between gemstone and asset. At final hammer, it reached $5.5 million. Not just a record price for any emerald, but a record per carat. Over $305,000. The buyer, Harry Winston. The name was updated. It would now be known as the Rockefeller Winston Emerald. However, the value no longer rested in its color or size. It rested in the legacy it carried. A single transaction that linked American finance, historical craftsmanship, and gemological rarity in one record-breaking moment. Since that day, no emerald of equal provenance has re-entered the market, and no new owner has dared separate it again. Ranked 7th, Graff Pink Diamond. For over half a century, it had been stored in a private vault. 24.78 carats. Fancy, intense pink. Emerald cut. Type 2A. Its paperwork was flawless. So was its origin. It was owned by Harry Winston, the man who once donated the Hope Diamond to the Smithsonian. But this one he kept. There were no press releases, no exhibitions. The diamond remained undocumented in public databases until 2010. That year, Christie's Geneva listed it as Lot 214. No name, no marketing narrative, just a pink diamond with provenance. The estimate? $27 to $38 million. But there was one bidder who had no intention of following estimates. Lawrence Graff, known within the trade not only for acquiring important diamonds, but for restructuring them. His team understood that this stone could go further. The bidding escalated. When it crossed $40 million, most stopped. He didn't. Final price, $46 million US. At the time, the highest price ever paid for any diamond in history. Once acquired, Graff sent the stone back into the lab. It was recut slightly to improve its symmetry and remove minuscule surface abrasions. When it returned, it carried a new title, the Graff Pink. In doing so, the diamond moved from a legacy name into a privately branded asset, now controlled not by myth or monarchy, but by a commercial entity with global distribution in full command of its narrative. There are no plans to re-auction it. Its value is no longer public. In industry databases, it no longer appears as an anonymous 24.78-carat stone. It exists now under one name and one name only. The brand that bought it, recut it, renamed it, and locked it out of circulation. Ranked 6th, the orange diamond. Fancy, vivid orange. It's not a trade term. It's a classification issued only after a diamond has passed multiple layers of spectroscopic and structural analysis. Most diamonds with any orange hue are immediately downgraded. They're contaminated with brown, or too yellow, or too unstable under fluorescence. In over a century of gemological records, no diamond had ever crossed 10 carats while holding a pure, fancy, vivid orange grade. Until this one. 14.82 carats, pear-shaped, internally clean, with a saturation level that left no ambiguity. It arrived at the labs without a name, just a stone, unmounted, unpublicized. However, when the report was returned, it completely restructured the entire reference scale. GIA confirmed that this was the largest known pure orange diamond to meet the vivid standard, and the first of its kind to remain stable under test. Christie's Geneva listed it in November 2013. There were no celebrity bidders, no marketing campaigns, just science and scale. The estimate was cautious, $17 to $20 million. At auction, the number rose. Not because of branding, not because of historical ownership, because the GIA certificate left no room for negotiation. Final hammer, $35.5 million US. At the time, the most ever paid for a diamond of its color. Still unmatched. Since then, dozens of orange diamonds have entered labs. None have reached their grade or size. The orange diamond remains the sole occupant of its category. Not because it's beautiful, because it survived testing, and nothing else like it has. Ranked 5th, Blue Belle of Asia, sapphire. In 1937, a sapphire was prepared for presentation to King George VI. It was Ceylon in origin, over 390 carats, deep blue with near total transparency under cross-polarized light. But the presentation never occurred. The gem was quietly withdrawn. No record explained why, and after that, it disappeared, not into legend, but into silence. For almost 7 decades, the stone left no trace. No auctions, no exhibitions, no mention in trade or academic journals. Then, in November 2014, it reappeared, not as a rumor, but as Lot 348 at Christie's Geneva. The description was clinical. Ceylon origin, unheated, cushion cabochon, 392.52 carats. The gem had survived intact. Its clarity still met modern standards. Its blue remained uniform, neither violet nor gray. The color grade now used as a calibration point by dealers handling Sri Lankan sapphire. Initial estimates placed its value around $7 million. The market disagreed. Bidders drove the price to 17.3 million US dollars, the highest ever paid for any sapphire, of any origin or history. There was no noble lineage attached, no myth, just form, survival, and scale. The sale redefined how unheated sapphires from Sri Lanka would be evaluated in the years that followed. The stone was not returned to a museum or a royal vault. Its buyer remains undisclosed. But its existence, once missing from every database, now sits at the top of the reference ladder, ranked fourth, Crimson Flame Ruby. In December 2015, Christie's Hong Kong introduced Lot 2064, a ruby, 15.04 carats, Mogok origin, unheated, certified pigeon blood by both GRS and SSEF, the two most conservative grading institutions in colored stones. The stone had no celebrity provenance, no royal setting, just color, transparency, and size. The catalog estimate was aggressive, around $10 million. But the market wasn't prepared. Within minutes, the bids doubled. By the time the hammer dropped, the Crimson Flame had sold for 18.3 million US dollars, or $1.2 million per carat, the highest per carat price ever paid for a ruby. Until that day, ruby had remained undervalued compared to sapphire and pink diamond, even Burmese stones. However, the Crimson Flame met every standard simultaneously: origin, untreated state, and absolute saturation. What followed wasn't just headlines. Dealers began rewriting their pricing models. Auction houses started relabeling certificates in advance. Lab terminology, vivid red, pigeon blood, Mogok provenance, became market-driving phrases. The Crimson Flame didn't set a fashion. It forced a correction. Since the sale, no ruby has sold for more than its per-carat price, but none have met its standards either. The stone disappeared from public circulation after 2015. But its signature remains in every invoice, appraisal, and catalog that now lists Mogok ruby above its previous tier. It didn't just break a record, it shattered it. It redrew the scale. Ranked third, Sunrise Ruby, 25.59 carats. Burmese origin, unheated, certified vivid red, pigeon blood, by both GRS and SSEF. In 2015, it was featured in the Sotheby's Geneva catalog as the Sunrise Ruby. No provenance from royalty. No previous auction history. Just a name, taken from 13th century Persian poetry, and lab reports that placed it in the top 0.01% of rubies ever graded. The catalog listed a price estimate, $12 to $18 million. That was a high number, but it wasn't high enough. When the bidding closed, the hammer fell at 30.42 million US dollars, the most ever paid for a ruby and any colored gemstone at public auction. It wasn't just the price, it was the shift. Until then, colored stones had always lived beneath diamonds on the valuation ladder. After sunrise, that ladder changed. Ruby pricing charts were restructured. Burmese stones, previously capped at mid-tier diamond rates, began exceeding pink and blue diamonds in specific markets. Unheated reports from Mogok became the new gatekeepers for institutional collectors. Certification language hardened. Comparison charts started using two anchors, diamond and sunrise. The stone itself hasn't been seen since. It sits in a vault, private, unlisted, and insured under a name that may no longer match the auction record. But every major dealer still references it, and every lab still calibrates against it. The Sunrise Ruby didn't just set a record, it also broke a record. It became the price that defines what ruby is worth. Ranked second, Oppenheimer Blue Diamond. For over a century, De Beers controlled the global diamond supply, and for much of that time, Sir Philip Oppenheimer was its voice. Quiet, calculating, unseen by most, but central to every price, every release, every illusion of scarcity. There was one stone he kept, unlisted, not in vaults, not in auctions, just held, 14.62 carats, fancy vivid blue, rectangular step cut, a shape that reduces saturation unless the material is perfect. It was. In May 2016, the stone was listed at Christie's Geneva. For the first time, it was named publicly, the Oppenheimer Blue. The estimate was already record-breaking, up to $45 million. But on the night of the auction, that figure wasn't enough. The bids surpassed $50 million, then $55 million. When the hammer fell at $57.5 million, the Oppenheimer Blue became, at that moment, the most expensive diamond ever sold at public auction. It wasn't just a sale. It was the last trace of a dynasty exiting the trade it once ruled. The new owner was not a mining house, not a brand, not a bank, just a number in a catalog. Since the sale, the stone has vanished from public view. No exhibitions, no loans, no statements. But every significant diamond transaction since has occurred in its shadow. The Oppenheimer name left the industry in silence. The diamond did not. In first place, Pink Star Diamond. The Gemological Institute of America defines fancy vivid pink as the highest classification for pink diamonds. It is rarely issued, typically below 5 carats, rarely above 10, never above 30, until one stone tipped the scale. 59.60 carats, fancy vivid pink, internally flawless, mixed oval cut, engineered over 20 months to preserve saturation without compromising symmetry. There is no second example. The diamond was recovered in 1999 from South Africa. The rough weighed 132.5 carats. It was sold to Steinmetz Diamonds. They did not release it. They cut, calibrated, held. In 2003, it was introduced as the Steinmetz Pink. In 2017, it was put up for public auction under a new name, the Pink Star. Sotheby's, Hong Kong. Certified by GIA, backed by an internal guarantee. The sale closed at $71.2 million, the highest price ever recorded for any gemstone, in any format, at any auction. There was no celebrity name attached, no historical setting, no sovereign lineage, just color, volume, symmetry, and an absence of flaws. Since that sale, no diamond of equal color and weight has appeared. There are no others to appraise, no market curve to apply, no higher anchor point to scale against. The CTF Pink Star now resides in private control. Not for exhibition, not for resale. It is not a standard, it is not a symbol, it is the ceiling. Across 10 auctions, the numbers spoke louder than reputation. Not all of these gemstones came from royalty. Some weren't known at all until the day they were sold. But each transaction left a trace in how markets now assign value, in how labs now issue certificates, and in how collectors assess rarity. These were not record-breaking moments by chance. They were recalibrations. And from that point forward, no sapphire, ruby, or diamond would be judged the same way again. Let us know which one resonates with you in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.